All right, folks, you want my predictions for the housing market here in the upstate of South Carolina for 2024? Let's do it. As always, my name is Will Sawyer, your friend in real estate here in the upstate of South Carolina, and it's our goal with this channel that we are your #1 resource for all the things that you need to know about your relocation to Greenville. So if you like this video and like our content, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel so that you can follow along in all future videos until you decide to relocate to our wonderful area. So in the latter half of 2023, the Federal Reserve announced that they would be dropping rates at least 3 times in 2024. And we're sitting here in April, and have they cut rates at all? No. And there's a number of reasons why they are kind of pumping the brakes on those rate drops. You know, the first one was supposed to be by the end of March, yet it hasn't happened. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on abroad that I think could heavily impact our economy here in the United States. So the Fed has kind of sat on the sidelines with these rate drops up until this point. Now, as of this recording, mortgage interest rates are about 6.88%. That's a little bit down from the week previous where they were hovering right around 7%. And over the last 6 months, rates have been fluctuating in between 6.5% and 7.5%. And at the end of 2023, they almost touched recent highs of 8%. When rates started to significantly increase from historic lows a few years ago of 2% and 3%, you know, your headlines were that prices were gonna fall out of the sky, that the housing market was gonna come to a screeching halt, and that I better find another job. Well, none of that has proven to be true to this point. Prices have not come down. The real estate market has not significantly slowed down, and I think we're doing just fine. So before we give you a market forecast of 2024, let's take a look back at last year in 2023 for the Greenville housing market. So in Greenville last year in 2023, prices were up about 4.2%, which 3 to 5% annually is a healthy amount of appreciation. In total, sales, closed sales, were down about 10%, and then inventory overall across the board was up about 14.7%. And also, months supply of inventory went up about 20%. So what do these numbers that we have in 2023 mean, and what does that mean for the 2024 housing market? Let's break down each different factor and talk a little bit more in depth about each one. So across the United States, home prices rose to an average of $407,000 in 2023. Here locally in Greenville, that average sale price came in 2023 at about $371,000. Now, what we're finding is when you read the headlines, homes are massively overpriced. Well, if you actually look at the data, according to the National Association of Realtors, home prices in 2023 were only about 6% above the historic trend line. So that means based on where home prices should be following the trend line, home prices in 2023 were only about 6% higher than that. So what you see on the news isn't necessarily true given the information that we're looking at according to the National Association of Realtors. So in the United States as a whole, new listings last year were down. Here in Greenville specifically, they were down about 2.1%. And that's no surprise. Over 75% of mortgages existing today in the United States are at or below 5%. So what we're finding is that people that are moving and selling their home are people that actually have to move, whether they're looking to be closer to family, looking to relocate for a job, looking to just start a new phase of life. Those are the people that are selling, not necessarily the people that have a bunch of equity and just want to sell their property. So what we have is a problem, but a good problem for a lot of folks. Over the past 4 years, people have built a significant amount of equity in the homes that they have. However, they're kind of locked into those homes because if they refinanced just shortly after the start of COVID, they probably locked in at anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%. And if they're going to be selling that house and taking out another mortgage, they're going to be trading up that new mortgage at 6.5% to 7% today. And then inventory. So we are in a significantly low inventory environment across the nation and certainly here in the local Greenville market. And that's because over the last 10 years, coming out of the Great Recession, new home starts were at historic lows, and for a number of years, they were below what they should have been. So since builders have not been building for the last 15 years, we find ourselves in the predicament that we're in today. And you couple that with 75% of homeowners that have mortgages that are locked in below or at 5%, you just don't have a lot of homeowners selling their house unless they have to sell their house. So what we've been seeing over the last several years is that there's just a shortage of motivated home sellers. However, there are a lot of buyers in our market. So if you look at national migration trends, where are most of the people moving? Well, a lot of folks are selling their home in the Northeast, the Midwest, or out West and moving to the Southeast. So a lot of influx into Greenville and into the Southeast in general has created more of a demand for our houses, and we still have a low inventory supply. So if you were to say, let's not bring any more listings to the market starting today, it would take about 3 months for all of the homes that are currently on the market to get absorbed. And what we call this is month supply of inventory. And right now in Greenville, we're sitting at about 2.9 month supply of inventory. A healthy real estate market has 5 to 6 months of inventory. So if that number is lower than 5 to 6 months, that means we're in a seller's market. If that number exceeds, say, 6 months, that means we're in a buyer's market. So what does that mean for a buyer and a seller? In a seller's market, the seller has the advantage. And in a buyer's market, the buyer has the advantage. In a seller's market, there's less inventory to choose from for buyers. So prices are probably going to remain high and terms are going to be favorable for sellers. Now, if they're in a buyer's market, there's more inventory than there are buyers, and buyers are probably going to get favorable terms on the home that they're buying. So what does all of this data from 2023 mean going into 2024? So far, at the end of Q1 in 2024, we've seen prices increase about 4%, sales increase about 12%, and new listings hitting the market increase about 24%. All of these numbers are year over year. So comparing this time last year in 2023 to this time this year here in 2024. So despite the Federal Reserve not cutting rates like we were expecting them to at this point in 2024, we're still seeing buyers buy and we're still seeing sellers sell. You know, with my buyers, I've noticed an increase in them competing in multiple offer situations. I've noticed less days on market for my sellers. And I've also noticed just a general uptick in activity across the board here in the upstate of South Carolina in the real estate market in general. So why is our market so strong? Well, I mentioned it earlier in the video, and it's really a simple model, right? There's a shortage of homes for sale, and we have a positive net migration trend. So a lot of folks who are moving to Greenville, buying houses in Greenville, are folks from out of state. So if you're not someone who's already living here, and of course folks already living here are buying houses as well, but we also have folks like empty nesters, or folks relocating for work, or folks who just want to have a more affordable cost of living compared to where they live now here in South Carolina. And just this past weekend, I talked to someone from Connecticut, and they are paying $16,000 a year just in property taxes. That does not include insurance. That does not include their mortgage. That does not include all of the other expenditures that they have every month. So it's a pretty easy sell for them to say, hey, we're at a certain point in our life where we don't have to live in Connecticut anymore. We don't want to bear these winters anymore. The people are crazy, the drivers are crazy, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. So now they're looking to move to South Carolina, where there's just an easier pace of life. For a home just like theirs here in South Carolina, they'd probably pay $3,000 a year in taxes. And then they would have way more personal liberty here in South Carolina than they currently do up there in the Northeast. So there's no surprise that there's a big influx of folks moving from out of state into South Carolina, whether it be Greenville or Columbia or Charleston or any of the other surrounding towns here in the area. And I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. So in 2024, I expect these numbers to continue along the same lines that they have in Q1. I expect prices to increase slightly. I expect inventory to continue to rise, and I expect there to be a continuous increase in buyer activity here in our area. Now that we're seeing new home starts get to where they should be at an annual basis compared to where they were in the last 15 years, more homes are going to be hitting the market. Buyers are going to have more options to choose from, and we've already seen buyers become more picky now that they're having to trade up on mortgage rates. They're making sure that the home that they're buying fits their needs and is comfortable every month for them to afford. And as a whole, I expect the Greenville housing market to remain strong in 2024 and for the next several years to come. And of course, we monitor this data every week, every month, and then every quarter. So we'll continue to provide these real estate market updates throughout the year so that you can be an informed consumer when you are considering relocating to our area. So I hope this information was helpful, and I hope that it provided some clarity on whether or not it makes sense for you and possibly your family to relocate to Greenville. There's a number of wonderful things about Greenville that we've talked about in our other videos. So be sure to check out our homepage and watch all the videos that we've done on Greenville so far and the surrounding towns, where we discuss really the pros and cons of moving to Greenville and the surrounding cities around it. As always, my friends, my name is Will Sawyer, your friend in real estate here in the upstate of South Carolina. And if you're considering a relocation to our area, please do me a favor, give me a shout at my cell phone number below and shoot me an email at my email below. I would love to start a dialogue with you about what your relocation to Greenville could look like in 2024. Thanks so much. Well, this video is going to be about Greenville County, the upstate of South Carolina. Great thing to do and easily in the evening. I'm a local real estate expert here in the area. All time, we're right behind me is a really cool place called Freight Yard.